So this is the fourth time I'm doing this video because it's how many times I've gotten upset. Transgenderism was created for the patriarch system. It's what infiltrated the women's rights movement. It's the reason I never supported the women's rights movement. Again, because they always made themselves look trashy. Then when they came out like 3 or 4 years ago and said, we support men that say they're women, I thought, well, that should tell you who they are. But the patriarch system, because the transgender stuff goes all the way, it's always been to protect the patriarch system. They'll tell you it was created as a pushback against the patriarch system. No, it's not. That's why I've said for a couple of years now, I said the radical left and the radical right, it's like they work together, even though it appears to people that they're really, they're opposing sides, but they're not, because both are after biological women. That's who they don't want to get rights. So they're such hypocrites and bastards, okay? Project 2025, Heritage Foundation, National Review, your Republicans, your Democrats, okay? They're such effing hypocrites, okay? That, they carry on about, the rights and the Declaration of Independence. Oh, but that life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness was only meant for men, huh? God. I mean, this is how bad it was. Because women wanted the right to vote. In 1910, men formed a group called the Men's Association that was opposed to women's suffrage. And they argued that women were unsuited for politics due to traditional roles restricting voting to elite white men. Prominent figures such as bankers, congressmen, and senators led chapters. Chapters, key word there. Because what is Turning Point doing? Leading chapters. And what did they say? The women's rights movement is responsible for all the problems in the world. Women need to know their place. They need to get back to their traditional roles. That's why Charlie Kirk had people on his show that said, when women got the right to vote, everything went downhill. No, everything went downhill because you refuse to follow God. And your mind is sick. You keep our world sick because you refuse to let God lead. You have been the curse. You spit in God's face. While you and Charlie Kirk and Turning Point go on these campuses and carry on about God. Yeah, well, that's why God didn't intervene with Charlie Kirk. Because God doesn't support this. You created your masculinity all on your own. God never gave you that construct. Never. It's simple. We know for the most part men are stronger physically than women. That's it. That's it. So why were you so against women having equal rights? Because you were so used to having privilege. That's why. And you still are. And you're on the right as you're on the left as Democrats, and you're on the right as Republicans, and you all serve each other. May God have mercy on your souls. Often aligning with women's anti-suffrage organizations. These efforts delayed state referendums through well-funded campaigns. Opponents claimed women's votes would double costs without value, disrupt homes, empower socialism, echoing biblical views of male headship. Again, because they follow the religion of Paul. Again, you never can put Paul before Jesus. Jesus showed women needed to be brought up to equal status, and because all of the men in these elite, groups, the Congress, all of that, politics, your C-suite, okay, because their mind is sick, and God came to heal their mind, but they didn't want anything to do with God. They just want to talk. They just want to talk and say, it's about what Paul says. Okay, because they didn't want to know God. They keep our world sick. And they get so sick that there's men that will literally transition Just like they did in ancient days with the eunuchs that would chop their thing off. It's that embedded, that curse. So, and it's clergy, everybody. Clergy and intellectuals warned of moral decay. What did you hear Turning Point talk about? What do you hear Tucker Carlson talk about? What do you hear all of these people talk about? Moral decay. They are the moral decay. They serve the patriarch system. And most women, because I was one of them, it's not that I'm against male, female. I think that that's the way God wanted it, but you didn't want to let God do it that God can do this better than you. But instead, because you wanted to lead, because you wanted to keep us in your sick, diseased mind system, think about all the people that have been hurt because of all this transgender bullshit. It's led because of your inability to see that you created masculinity construct. You chose to follow the religion of Paul instead of the religion of Jesus. With some depicting suffrages as hysterical rebels against divine order. No, Jesus came and showed the order he wanted, which is why he didn't want the church structure, because he didn't want the hierarchy. He wanted him in here. He knew you people would do this. He knew you'd do it because you refused to let him lead, which is why eventually he has to intervene. Because we don't want, there's many of us that don't want anything to do with your kingdom anymore. Your kingdom sucks. If you're a Democrat or a Republican, your kingdom sucks. We hate it. You don't get anything done because you're in your sick, diseased mind that is so what? Afraid of women? So afraid of women that you have to get men to become women or say they're women so that you can go into sporting events and beat them up or infiltrate the women's rights movement or create your bullshit Charlie Kirk who just served Lucifer? Yeah, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those words mean so much for the patriarch, but for women doesn't mean anything because it wasn't written for us, was it? Hypocrites. Church history shows gender roles as tools for patriarchal stability. Medieval councils enforced this to uphold clerical celibacy and family structures. Yeah, all of your major institutions did it. And then it's led to even worse in the LGBTQ plus 9/5 community. So that curse then created, women transitioning to men, and then them going as far as doing it to children. And because of the patriarch sickness and refusal to let God lead, it has led to all of this whole alphabet agency that they're very much behind because it's men on both sides. They've never been cured from their curse and their illness of their mind. This is also why then they go on to abuse children, most especially boys, in the churches, because they hope that there'll be a certain percentage of those boys, because there is, that will go on to do that too, that will go on to be gay, that then they can use to their advantage so that Glenn Beck's and Michael Knowles and Heritage Foundation and the left and the right can all mold the next generation to keep the sick-minded patriarch system of man ruling over everybody in place. Yeah, way to go. Woo-hoo you.